Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrew Helton. You may know me as Exorcfade. I wanted to make this video and talk a little bit about the paranormal. I already did a video, and I apologize. It was kind of a lazy video, so this is kind of me rectifying that video a little bit and speaking to you while I'm not quite as sick and a little bit more coherent and can focus better. So here's a little segment I'm going to call Para News. Alright, well, this isn't really news, so maybe I'll figure out a different title for the segment. But the point being, at the moment, I wanted to talk about the paranormal. I'm going to pretty much just cover what I did in the last video and make it a little bit more comprehensive, hopefully. That's the goal, at least. So I wanted to ask the question for us, or anyone really, why do we believe in the paranormal? Why? And what do we base it off of? I've been in the field before, and I've experienced weird things that I cannot explain. I won't pretend to tell you that I know anything about the paranormal, though. Oddly enough, I won't. I won't pretend to be a specialist or anything else. I want information, and we're not getting that, even as a whole, the paranormal as a whole. Let me start off by introducing, like I was talking about in the last video, the Fox sisters. It was 1848. You had Leah, the oldest, but then you had Margaret and Kate, aged, I think it was 12 and 15 years old at the time. But they were somehow, they're playing pranks on their mother somehow, or they had an apple on a string and they were bouncing it on the floor. Their mother had no idea where the noise was coming from, and I think they had even tricked the older sister at first too. The mother apparently assumed that they were too young to be capable of such tricks and was racking her brain trying to figure out what it was. Somehow it ended up being a spirit, because the kids got together and they went and apparently asked the spirit questions by responding with rappings. Let's see. This all took place. I have notes this time a little bit, kind of. They're not actually like fully written notes. They're just kind of like cues. So, but it'll help me. But this took place in Hydesville, New York, which no longer exists. It's part of some other township now. But then in 1888, Margaret officially spilled the beans herself. There's another relative at their time that came out like a year or two later, and even came out and said that she helped with, put on their seances. But here's an official statement from Margaret and Kate. It says it was on their official release. This is later on, the 1880s something. After they had done all this, there was already scientists and skeptics alike had favored the theory that the rappings came from the cracking of joints. And that theory came about early as 1850 from the so-called, professional skeptics and scientists at the time. Noting that the sounds only occurred from either underneath the sisters' feet or when their dresses were in contact with a table. And like I said, this is as early as 1850. They started doing all these movements and noticing stuff, apparently, 1848, so only within a couple of years. But the sisters are what catapulted the spiritualist movement into the mainstream at that time. It became huge. It blew up. Somehow one of the neighbors were convinced that someone was murdered at their house, and they put a seance with wrappings. Then they started searching for all the people that had lived in the house before them, and they ended up pinpointing some guy named, I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Bell. And they kind of targeted him and said, oh, hey, you must have killed someone in the house. And I mean, literally, I mean, like, completely destroyed this guy's life. He was out of the community. He was pegged as a murderer, you know. So, I mean, they essentially ruined that guy's life. But Margaret and Kate, like I said, that they came out officially. They put on a presentation. I think there was like 2,000 people at the time, which was big back then. You know, and and like I said, they were already investigated by scientists and skeptics, and even Houdini himself was alive at that time and going through the spiritualist movement and proving them all to be frauds. But this is a statement. Let me just get it out. By Margaret and Kate, they stated that I have been chiefly instrumental in perpetuating the fraud of spiritualism upon a too confiding public. Most of you doubtless know the greatest sorrow in my life has been that this is true. And though it has come late in my day, I am prepared to tell the truth. And then they went on to say the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, blah, you know, because they were making an official statement. But anyway, it pretty much came, they said, I am here tonight as one of the founders of spiritualism to denounce it as an absolute falsehood from beginning to end. They were denouncing spiritualist movement in its entirety because they were complete frauds. There was nothing truthful about them. And everyone was basing the spiritualist movement off of their experience. And like I said in the other video, the spiritualist movement kind of had a following and movement before them, so they weren't the whole of it, but I mean, they just made it blow up to mainstream attention. So why do we have spiritualists today? And it's based entirely on frauds. There's not been one proven spiritualist or medium of any sort ever. I mean, think about that though. The entire thing is based on a fraud. I mean, this is the time, like I said, mediums and tarots and Ouija boards and all that, fraudulent. Just something to think about. Like, why do people still lean towards that thinking? Same with spirit photography. Back in 1860, while the spiritualist movement was gaining traction, I think his name was William H. Mumler. Like I said, however you pronounce it, it doesn't matter. The point is, though, he kind of revitalized the idea of spirit photography. And I don't know exactly how that came about. He ended up, sorry, my phone was going off, I had to turn it off, but he had a camera, and how his camera worked at the time was with glass slides. So he took a photo, but then he ended up taking another photo on top, you know, without cleaning off the glass slide fully, and realized it made a double exposure. The person from the last photo was kind of imprinted as a ghostly phantom figure on this new photo, and he became highly popular. I mean, people supported him, other spiritualists wrote books and everything else about, but it ended up becoming a huge fraud because he ended up, at the time, I don't know who it was, but he took a photograph of someone who was famous and posed them as the spirit, who obviously was very much alive still. And that's how he ended up getting called out and everything. But I mean, even that went on for quite a while. And like I said, I don't know the mechanics of it. I don't know how rare cameras were. And even those that had cameras, I don't know how they didn't call him out. Yeah, I don't know the reasoning or why it all carried on long as it did. But like I said, eventually he got called out, and there's other people like William Hope and another guy, and the other guy secretly engraved something on his slides, so when he tried to do double exposures, the guy called him out and said, you know what, these are fake because look, because they're kind of water printed. The slides, that he had switched out on the guy. So, I mean, and if you think about it, spirit photography, if you're going to catch spirits, like I said, during the Victorian age, when postmortem photography was, a big thing and a common thing, you would think that we would capture more spirits during that time on film or camera than we would have at any other time throughout history. And it's just never happened. And like I explained in the other one, you can argue now that cameras are more advanced and that it took so long to get the exposure. At that time, ghosts aren't going to sit there and go, take my picture, take my picture, take my picture. But the point is, though, so now our cameras are quicker. You can catch a moment in an instant now. Hit the button, click, you've got a picture. So, yeah, I mean, you can argue that things are more capable than they were at the time to catch things that are moving quicker. Or a moment when they phase in, or whatever you want to call it, manifest, I don't know. But my question is, why do we carry this belief when it's all based on a fraud? I mean, I personally, I'm asking. I don't understand it. I mean, I get the idea behind it, and it's awesome, but theoretically and technically, it's all based on a fraud. Just something you should know. What else did I want to talk about? Because I'm going to add a little bit extra to this video. I mean, and I explained in the last video, it's the same thing. I think it was over in Sweden or somewhere with EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Some guy had recordings that he could have swore that, and he couldn't explain how they got there. And there was this whole big movement in EVPs. And also to note that I didn't mention in my last video, when it comes to investigators or ghost hunter, whatever you want to call, the use of electronic devices such as EMF detector. Do you know when and how that gained traction? I'll give you a minute to guess. Thank you, Bill Murray. The Ghostbusters. True story. I mean, there's been parapsychology development and instruments and technology and people trying to debunk it and capture ghosts for years before that and whatever. But that is how that mainstreamed and that idea got out there. Was from a movie from Hollywood titled Ghostbusters. You didn't really see EMF detectors or anything in the field until after that point. Before then, you had people, dowsing rods and whatever. Ghostbusters. All right, but with all that being said, like the last video, I'm going to cover this first. Like I said, EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, And this recorder right here, I don't know. It's digital. You got the buttons, yada yada. I mean, pretty much you just hit record. It's good to go. There's no internal mechanical sounds that you're picking up. There's no background noise to it. The explanation I gave for this is that this recorder is too awesome. The example I gave my wife and I at the time, I hadn't really used it. We like to go for walks, and I personally I tend to find graveyards relaxing, and sometimes they're pretty scenic, and they're nice to walk around. But so we pulled this out. We were messing around. I was trying to record stuff, but the problem was, and I was recording a video on my phone. But while I was there in person, I didn't respond to the noises because I didn't hear them with my own ears. But upon playback, I mean, I could hear all this traffic and all kinds of noises, like like I said, the plane going overhead and stuff. But I didn't react to it on the video or anything because I personally could not hear it while I was there in the present. Like I said, the highway. There's highways, a mile this way, a mile or so that way. So I wasn't right at the highway. It wasn't just across the road or anything. It takes a few minutes to get there from this way or that, but you could distinctly hear all the traffic on the highways. Just it was ridiculous, really. So I always explain to people, microphones are designed that they're more sensitive than your ears are. So you're always going to pick up sounds that you did not hear while you were presently there. And they're made in such a way that they will amplify certain frequencies. And honestly, it could be because my own mind was tuning out those sounds. But like I said, I was giving an example of people that live in high traffic areas where there's trains or airplanes or whatever, generally that they're extremely loud. And when you first move in an area like that, the noise will drive you insane, literally. I mean, I know from personal experience. But then you get used to it. You no longer hear it. It becomes background noise, and it's no longer anything that stands out to you. So you can be holding a conversation with someone, they'll be like, "What is that noise?" And be like, "What noise?" They're like, "All that noise." Oh, the plane. Yeah. Because they're having difficulty hearing you because it's distracting to them. But you don't notice it any longer. And I went on with what was it? Voice boxes or spirit boxes. Whatever. There's a few people in the field concerning these things that I just have the least amount of. You will never hear me say a good thing about them, but especially certain individuals that have put out applications or that try to get famous off ghost boxes. Don't do it. That's all I can say. Don't do it. It's not that you don't get interesting results, but what is it called when you like visually see something, but your mind, you're in random patterns, and your mind starts making like faces and everything else. Pareidolia, something like that. But it happens audibly as well. You have audible pareidolia. I don't know if that's what it's called, but the point is, though, your ears trick you. The way your mind interprets information, it either decides to ignore or pay attention to certain things to make sense to you. That's just how we're hardwired as being human beings. There's no two ways about it. I'm not impervious to that effect. Neither are you or anyone else, really. Like I said, it's just how we're hardwired. Like the information coming in, our minds, our brain, they try to make sense of what we're seeing or hearing. So if it doesn't make sense to you, well, try to twist it in a way to where it does. So if you have these spirit boxes, and they're interesting pieces of equipment, I'm not going to knock them. They can be interesting. I just hold them with a grain of salt. That's all. Because, like I said, look into phonemes. It's not full enunciations of words, but it's like partial bits of speech, like like yeah, and like I explained, you only need a small amount of phonemes. Either way. My point is, you only need a small strand of them to pretty much create and recreate all known language for the majority of it. Just and like I said, and phonemes that they can be created not even necessarily by just speech or vocal noises. I mean, they can be just sound effects, and just. I mean, you might be obviously clearly hear me snapping at the moment, but you're visually getting that information as well. So I mean, it can be from background noise or whatever the case may be. So you're inevitably going to hear a word. No matter what, because your brain's trying to hear speech. A lot of the time, you'll try to hear things that pertain to what makes sense to you at the time. Like if you go in, you're predetermined that you're talking to such and such spirit, yada yada, at this place and this happened. You're going to predetermine that you're going to hear specific names or a set of numbers, like a date, or whatever the case may be. And also, you're more prone to pick up your own name. I know a lot of people say, "What's my name? Can you identify me?" And there's nothing wrong with that. But the odds are you're going to eventually hear your name because you're actually programmed to distinctly pick out your own name. Like if you hear a crowd going on, there's a lot of stuff going on, but someone yells your name, it gets your attention because you're programmed to react to your name. But the point is, interesting as they are, I would be much more intrigued if you could actually hold like a full conversation. If you got a full response, not just broken up words to hear that are apparently relevant to what you're talking about. Because if they're able to do that in spirit form, whatever spirits are, like a lot of time you will know, if you know me personally, I refer to spirits or ghosts, whatever you want to, as spookables. Sorry, that's just the term I choose to use a lot. I mean, I don't usually use that term when I'm talking on videos like this or to people, but in my personal life, my personal time, I usually just say spookables. Because I have no idea what they are. What else was I going to talk about? Apart from those recorders, or that one recorder, and I kind of explained it, but like I said, I mean, you have many options that are, I've got these ones that also great recorders. That they're not quite as sensitive as the other one I have, the Tascam. Which is a good thing. Like I said, the Tascam, it's too awesome sometimes. It picks up and amplifies too much sound. And like I was telling people, for ghost hunters, we have tendencies to go out at night. And there's valid reasons for that. And it's not that just ghosts appear randomly at night more than any other time. Because technically, if there's a haunting or a ghost or whatever you want to call it, it's spookables, that they do whatever they do at whatever time it is they feel like doing it. The thing is, there's less interference at night as far as sound. But then you also have to know that uninterrupted sounds from outside or wherever uninterrupted sounds when there's not as much going on at night travel further. What else is there? There's what was I going to say? See, I told you I was more coherent and more focused, and apparently I'm not much as I said. But I did want to go over some stuff. So, apart from that, oh yeah, I was talking about why we do it at night. One, you have less glare and reflections from the sun coming in. When it comes to photographs, I mean, no matter who you are, no matter what investigator you are, you're gonna have camera. That's just part of the deal. Don't use your flash. Don't set up lighting, whatever you have to do. Flash is a horrible idea when it comes to those types of settings, because especially when it's dark, and you're not familiar with. I mean, you've got wood surfaces, you've got screens, you've got pictures, you've got frames, you've got glass. All these things that cause reflections. Not only do you have reflections, you also have refraction, which is the light of the reflection being reflected back into the camera. That's just what they call it. It's a refracted light, because it's already being reflected, and now it's being refracted back into your camera anyway. And know the equipment that you are using. Like I said in my last video, take a basic photography course. Just you can't. I can't tell you how much it helps to know what type of photo you're taking or how it should be set. As far as your f-stop, your aperture, and it's amazing how much you actually need to know. It's confusing to explain. I mean, I could sit here and tell you and talk to you about photography. As you see that picture behind me, right here and right here, I took those, we framed them. I've got more in the bathroom. There's actually a spookable hanging up right there. But it's all circumstantial, the way your camera has to be set. So if you're just randomly clicking away, things might be in focus, out of focus, depending on your aperture. And there's a number of instances. And like I said, and the way your camera has to be set up, it's all circumstantial. So when you have one of these fancy cameras, you know what, which I love, like a DSLR, whatever, but they're very specific. You have to know what you're shooting, and you kind of have to have it planned ahead, or have multiples of them, or sit there and change out lenses, on the go. That's why a lot of like really professional people will have like 4 cameras hanging off them with different lenses attached. So depending on what they're trying to shoot, I just, it's not the greatest camera in the world. It's actually decent though, and I love this thing. It's my this here is just a digital Sony DSC H7 model Cybershot. I love digital cameras because the automatic settings. They're especially if you get a higher end one, a decent one. You don't have lenses to mess around with. You just click, 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 and the automatic settings usually are pretty well in cameras nowadays. So there's not a lot of guesswork, like I said, and you're not trying to necessarily be professional and take beautiful pictures. You're just trying to get pictures. All right, what else is there? Yes, and I'm recording on a camera I have on my computer at the moment for the video. This isn't anything special or amazing, this camera here, but I do have it for The infrared. I don't know if that's showing up. Maybe it's just reflecting my webcam back into the, yeah. I don't even know what brand this is or what this is, to be honest. It's actually not the best camera quality, especially just for general recording. That's what I did my first video and everything on. The goofy video. I actually recorded the clips with this. The reason I have that for ghost hunting purposes is because it actually does pretty well for the infrared pickup, which is mainly why I got that one. I mean, if I flood an area with IR, it's obviously much better. The IR on it is all right, but I mean, just in general, the picture quality with the IR is pretty good for recording, though. What else? Dun 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 dun. Let me open my handy dandy little spookable kit. See what I have in here, for instance. Dun dun dun. Here's my handy dandy K2 meter. There's a spirit in here. Please move the light. Let me show you something with this. And like TV, why I don't trust them. All right, see, sitting there. There's a spirit. Make it go to yellow. Oh, look, I have spirit. If I'm full of shit, make it jump to red. Oh my God, look at that. Is it going red? Oh, yep. See? Oh God, look how. Oh, blasphemy, blasphemy. I don't believe it. Blasphemy. All right. If your name's George, go up to orange. George Orange. No. Maybe. No. No. Alright, if your name is Harry Ballsack, light it up to red. Oh. You seem to favor that name. I'm manipulating this thing. I'm not fully clicking it on. But anyway, you have to understand, these are meant for a very specific reason also. They weren't designed for the paranormal field. A lot of people will tell you that, but also they don't tell you what it means. There's a lot of people that think that EMF is related somehow to paranormal activity. Proven, disproven. I wouldn't use it so much as a communication device, but it's gimmicky. Why not? Another issue I see with people. This here. Is a thermometer. What this guy does, this little antenna thing here that I don't want to touch and mess up, it reads ambient temperature around it. So if you've got a cold spot, yada yada, you can register it, and this will record the different temperatures too. As I'm moving it around, obviously, that breeze will make a cooler spot for a second, and then, but not always, because it generates a field around it. And the biggest mistake I see people with thermometers is that they don't use these types. When they try to do that, like I said, cold spots are famously or notoriously associated with spirits and everything else. But you see these people with the IR thermometers, the pointy ones that read surface temperature. It's not reading anything in the air. So if you're getting a cold spot, you're not going to record it with a laser pointed thermometer. You're just not, because it's going across the room, it's bouncing off a window and giving you the reading the surface reading of the glass on the window or the wood or whatever surface it is it's bouncing off of. And obviously, different surfaces absorb and release heat at different rates. So you're going to always have fluctuations in temperatures depending on where you're pointing that at. So the number one mistake, don't use the laser directed. Just don't, because you're falsifying information and it's not actually recording or doing anything that you want it to. Secondly, and I guess it could be helpful, but this one is not, because this one is a piece of shit. Sorry for using that language, but it is. It comes in a little handy nightlight, though, if you need it for nightlight. This is supposed to be a motion sensor, so if something passes in front of it, it goes on. This specific one, what symbol is that? Do you know? I don't know. There's no real information on this thing about this, but this one is a big piece of garbage. Never worked. Don't do it. I've got your handy dandy flashlight. This one is UV, or technically it helps in IR settings, or it just got the bright white. What else do I have in here? Batteries, yada yada yada. Microphone for my recorder. This little guy. I love this thing. Just because I like it. See, that's a laser pointer. I don't want to point it directly at my camera lens. I don't know if you can see it. Behind me there, see that? It's a laser grid on a pen. I can kind of change the shape of put them closer together, spread them out, whatever the case, depending on how large or small I need the grid to be. I don't know if you can see that on behind me there. Anyway, not in my face. Yeah, you see all the lights shining behind me. Anyway, it's a fun little tool. That is, if anything breaks the beams or lights, you'll be able to see the outline of it. The reason I bring this up, because anymore, if you go on an investigation or you talk to clients or anything, they all expect you to have all this gimmicky stuff because they've all watched these TV shows that tell you you have to have all this neat, weird stuff. There's a few pieces of equipment that I wish that I did have, but that has nothing to do with the gimmicks. Honestly, I don't use 3/4 of this stuff when some of it's fun to use. But then I was talking about, none of it gives me evidence. There is no evidence. If you have evidence of ghost or whatever, I would be dumbfounded. I would be floored. The point is, though, you don't. Your pictures, doesn't matter how good of a picture, it's not scientific. And like I said, if you want me to ever review a picture, don't just send me a Facebook link or say, hey, look at that picture. Or because I can do that all day. Cool, great, awesome. It doesn't matter how interesting it is or looks or any of that. If I don't have the raw file, I can't adequately tell you one thing or another or not about the picture. Because a raw file, it records all the information. It'll tell me your aperture settings, your focal point. A lot of time, if the lens has information, it'll tell me your lens, your white balance. It tells you all this information, and then it also tells me if it's edited in any way. Like even if you up the contrast or anything, the raw file will tell me. You can't hide that information in a raw file. It just automatically records it and keeps it as part of the file. So a lot of you phonies out there, and there's plenty of them that are, and there's just as many that aren't. And I can excuse someone misidentifying something for paranormal or whatever the case may be. But if you're blatantly just being fraudulent, I will call you out for it, to be honest. Point blank. You don't be a fraud. This field and is already iffy enough. So if you're intentionally going out to be fraudulent, don't do it. A group, Dan Norvell, and his group, the Dan Norvell Project. Look them up, follow them. Like I said, they are some of the most honest people in the field that I have met, especially locally, and they are deserving of your attention. If this is your cup of tea, if you like paranormal, I highly suggest you follow them. I know he mentioned eventually he wants to kind of get together and do something, but we'll have to figure out something or schedules at some point. What else was I going through? I'm trying to remember what I explained in the other video about why things aren't evidence, because they're not scientific, a lot of it. Like I said, you can get a following and people can believe you and take you at your word, but it's not really scientific and it's not considered evidence because it can't be recreated. Like if you have a camera, you're like, oh, I take pictures of ghosts. Okay, cool. How do you do that? Not just, oh, I go click, click. No, that's not evidence. If you go click, there's a ghost, click, there's a ghost. Here, don't do this. Click, look, no ghost. It disappeared. Click, no ghost. Do this. Click, there's a ghost. Something that can be repeated. Then you would have a definite basis for scientific evidence. So intriguing it is, and like I said, and I'm not dissing the paranormal community. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not. I wouldn't have an interest in the paranormal if I didn't feel like I had personal experiences. But then again, that's all they are. Personal experiences. I mean, I could share stories with you or whatever. I mean, they're no different than a lot of stories you've heard a million times from other people. But, so, I mean, unless you want to go out there and just experience the paranormal, and I highly suggest that you do. Be respectful to your surroundings. If you're going to cemeteries or wherever, don't screw with stones or any of that other stupid crap. Those are people, respect them. And there's been a lot of history being destroyed for people that just don't give a damn about pretty much anything. So don't be one of those people, please. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, look at this, little smudge sticks for sage. I'm not much of a spiritualist or into that kind of stuff, but I have it. It's cool, and I even make like scribing mirrors and everything. I've never put it into practice because personally on the spiritual side and religion and everything, when you want to get all the beliefs mixed into it, I mean, the paranormal field just kind of umbrellas and just you've got so many different cultures and religions and stuff that view spirits differently, even than we do, like spirits or ghosts, phantoms, whatever you want to call them. Asian cultures have different wording, and that they kind of categorize them a little bit differently. So it's all comes down to what I guess what you want to believe to an extent, and like I said, but the point is though, I mean, I've known people that have been in this field 20 plus, 30 plus, years. But what are they adding to the field? Like I said, if you want to go through it, and for the thrill of it, more power to you. It's fun. It's exciting. You can creep yourself out. There's all kinds of things, and it is fun at times. Actual investigating gets a little daunting. I haven't been out in quite a while. I wish I got out more than I do. I just generally don't have the time or resources to even do what I would like to do. Because I know if I go out with all my little gimmicky stuff, which everyone expects you to have, if you go out, they're not even going to take you seriously if you don't have all this gimmicky stuff. But then I can't take it seriously because I have all this gimmicky stuff. If that makes any sense to you. So I do. I go out to enjoy it. I'm known to be goofy and outlandish at times. But when it comes to the seriousness of the paranormal, I have a general interest. And if you're not adding anything new or trying new things, then you're not really helping the field either advance or anything. You're not gaining new information that nobody else has. And even with all that information, all the people that are out there doing the same thing, they're not getting much. Other than the draw of the people that already have an interest in the paranormal. And like I said, orbs, discount them automatically. Why are they discounted? Whether they're paranormal or not doesn't matter. There are too many natural causes that can cause orbs in photographs for it to be considered paranormal. I mean, you'd have the amount of natural causes versus the things that are not natural to cause orbs are so disproportionate that the odds are that it's natural causes by something. Like I said, dust, pollen, moisture, bugs, and I mean, a number of things. So that's generally why people throw out orb pictures and don't collect them as evidence or throw them around and go, that this is Miss Mary Jo who, whatever it may be. But that's generally why, though. And like I said, no matter what your belief or cool, believe what you want. But generally, for evidence, that's why it's not accepted, because there's too many plausible and natural causes to create orbs within a photograph. I'm trying to really think and cover what else can I cover. Maybe that's all I can cover at the moment, really. But I just wanted to talk to you in a more coherent, consistent manner about the subject and kind of carried on. And this video might be a little bit longer. Like I said, the one things I wish I had access to was like thermal imaging. I don't have a thermal camera. I've never had the expenses to spend on it. Granted, thermal cameras would come in handy in their own sense. I'd go into why. Because, I mean, obviously, yeah, you see all the gimmicks and paranormal shows that kind of got into that. A lot of it is for entertainment purposes. You have to understand, like, cameras using IR. I use IR on my video camera in dark locations with the IR light, because the IR doesn't create a lot of visible light, obviously. But it's so that I have a means to see. No other reason. I mean, otherwise you're walking around, in a place that's, pitch black like this. That's what you see. So with the IR light in the camera, it doesn't flood the area with visible light. So pretty much it's for entertainment purposes, really, if you're going to film or whatever. With the thermal imaging, I won't get into a lot about it, because like I mentioned, the Dan Norvell project, and his team, another guy on his team, he and Larry had wrote a book. It's self-published. You can find it on Amazon. You can follow his page. I'm sure there's information to it. You can follow my page by boom, boom. Maybe it's not pointing to it. Where's the corner? Oh, everything is backwards on this thing. All right, up there somewhere in the banner, there's a little Facebook tab where you can follow me on Facebook, like, subscribe here. But the idea is, with different frequencies, I guess I'll just say frequencies. I leave it at that, because I don't want to push the information and discredit someone else And I've told him it is something that I wrote about. I can actually go back. I've got the information that I wrote about it, sort of. I didn't go into great detail or anything. I just kind of made a little blurb. But I'd like to see what someone else can do with the information, especially someone that has better resources and is taking the time to go out and do what I cannot do at the moment, on a regular basis, to test theories and come up with something new and put it to practice. And that's really the biggest issue with the paranormal field. Try something new. Put it to practice. Go out, try something. If you get a result, cool. Try it again. If you don't get a result, cool. At least you tried something new. That's all. Just rack your brain. Try it, because it's not advancing just doing the same things over and over and over. You know what I mean? It's just not. And not that I don't have an interest. Like I said, I've studied religion and everything. I could get into all the religion and different beliefs, but the main thing is, when it comes to religions and beliefs in the spiritualist and the categorization of different types of, what do you want to call them, hauntings, if you will, from residual hauntings to intelligent hauntings, and on and on and on and on. There's probably, but the one people are like, oh, what about, is when it comes to what they consider and call demonic hauntings, which are right around the poltergeist activity. But anyway, my point is, though, I won't make claims to be able to come and remove the boogeyman for you. I won't make that promise. I won't make that claim. If I can, cool. If not, I don't really have an interest in doing so anyway. I want to come to you because me, as an investigator, or anyone in the paranormal field, if we're going to catch any type of evidence whatsoever, it's going to be around these cases of profound amounts of, haunted activity. So if you have a demon, let me know. I want to come to you. I hope you are local, because I want your demon. I will box it up and put it as a little pet. But honestly, though, I mean, if there's some sort of haunting, and the way that it's categorized, and it's categorized as demonic haunting, that, for me, as an investigator, or a researcher, is where I'm going to get the most evidence from, because of the amount of activity. So if I'm going to catch something, that is where I'm more likely to get it. So with that being said, send me your demons. I will cross them and love them and call them George and put them on my shoulder. And when they misbehave, I'll just flick them right in the nose. But anyway. But I know, like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole spiritualist thing of it, because people are like, oh, angels. How come you never hear about angels haunting the place? And to be honest with you, if you want to talk about religion, even if religion is involved with it, and the ideology behind and with religion, especially Christian and based religions, if there's a demon, I think that a lot of the times it would probably be confused with an angel. Because read that book you proclaim to read. Angels don't sound all that nice and welcoming. I gotta be honest with you, they do not. I don't think I would want to meet an angel, or a demon technically. But either way, it doesn't sound like it would be a pleasant experience to even meet an angel. Just saying. I mean, look at, yeah, might be whatever. Just saying. I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe, and that's awesome. Do so. I'm not telling you any differently. I'm just kind of giving my perspective on it, because I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. Really, I'm not really swayed. You know, Satanist. There's huge misconceptions about Satanists, especially from Christians. I won't get into all that. Just know that your arguments are pretty much based in ignorance. That's all. That because you have your ideology and what Satan is in the Bible, and then oh my God, you'll have Satanists that are praising a Satan that they don't even really believe in to begin with. It's all confusing. It really makes no sense. Satanism is pretty much a mockery religion for the most part. To think it's yeah. I mean, there's some Satanists, I guess, that kind of fall within the spiritualist realm of belief systems, but there's not many that actually praise the devil and want to go murder people or sin or cause havoc. Just saying. All right, but anyway, I'm not a poster boy or announcer for any of that stuff. So, like I said, catch Dan Norvell, keep up with him, and also keep an eye on Eric Werner. He's got a lot of workings out. He's also a Satanist. Be careful. Sorry, I knew I was going to have a coughing fit eventually. Goodness. But it's not being planned until 2020. It's called Fright Fest. It's going to have not just the paranormal, but like the horror and filmography and movie and television. It's just kind of like a horror fest, and I think that's pretty much what it's proclaimed to be, is Fright Fest. But with the lineup of guests and everything, if you're interested, find him. He's got a Facebook page. I think he's got a website up with the information. You can buy tickets already, but it's not being planned until 2020. So there's plenty of time. Think about it. Look into it. Looks like it'll be an awesome time. Hopefully I can make it. Like I said, it's kind of late in the year for me to get out and travel about, after come September. And so I don't remember. You'd have to look at the dates. It's late September, early October, somewhere around there. But anyway, that Dan Norvell, I'm going to give him a shout out because he shared my last video and gave me praise. But hopefully this one will do a little bit more justice and I'm a little bit more coherent. But if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me. I would love to discuss information with you. Bounce it around. But have a good one.